Now, let's jump right in. Joining me, giving me great pleasure to welcome once again on set Kellyanne Conway, former counselor to President Trump, president of KA Consulting, Fox News contributor, and author of the excellent book, Here's the Deal. Kellyanne, this is right out of your playbook because you've been complaining about Republicans and Democrats not being stewards of the economy, not coming up with it. Biden's approval numbers plunging. And the poll specifically said stewardship of the economy. He gets a failure. What's your take on this?
Well, he's earned it. This administration is a man-made crisis. I think there's crisis and chaos everywhere we look. And when it comes to the economy, Larry, the average American is saying to themselves, who's managing my risk? When I make a bad decision at the grocery store or in the stock market or on a piece of property, who's preventing me from taking a bad risk? And then who is bailing me out from that bad risk? They know the answer is no one. You have to eat and own your own decisions. That's America. That's competition in a capitalistic society. But they see friends helping friends. They see people in high places who are wealthy or in positions of power bailing out. They don't need to use those words. America knows they know what it means. And they're saying, what's in it for me? And by the way, every time Joe Biden spends trillions of dollars of money we don't have on things we don't need, we end up paying the bill for it. People are smart. They know the taxpayers will be on the hook for all this. And he's not doing anything to bring down core inflation. Now, I've been critical of Republicans and Democrats in that the Republicans have a tremendous opportunity. I think Speaker McCarthy and others are doing this. I think President Trump, when he's on the stump, is doing this. Others are talking about getting that fiscal sanity back, being the party that can be the better financial stewards. I am going to repeat again, because I love what what Mr. Trump and Governor Pence did in September of 2016 in this town in New York City with you there, Larry. They put together an optimistic, forward-looking, specific, solution-centric economic plan. It helped him win the election in 2016. 4% growth, unleash American energy, cut those duplicative and onerous regulations. It also talked about how we don't have to settle for 2% anemic growth and unemployment at a certain number. And that actually helped because people said that's a promise I think they can deliver upon, and they did. Part of why President Trump's numbers are getting higher in the Republican primary particularly is because people are saying, you know who I want in the future to do a job? Somebody who's done the job before. And it's tied an awful lot to the economy. But until people feel like the job is enough to make the monthly bills, until they feel that they're financially secure, not insecure, that everyday life is affordable, not unaffordable, you're going to continue to see Joe Biden paying the price.
Well, I think it's interesting on this bank bailout thing. I think the Bidens completely underestimated the political fallout.
That's right.
I really do.
And that the public's paying attention.
That's right. I mean, people, right. It's their money, or let me say, it's our money in banks, and people are going, wait a minute, how good is it? And then Biden comes out and says, well, you know what? We're just going to cover the whole thing, $7 trillion worth. I mean, that's a very big number, $7 trillion worth if they have to guarantee it. And then they watch Yellen say yes, no. Jay Powell says yes, no, nobody's sure. I mean, this is what's haunting them in this poll. These polls are not definitive. I understand that they're polls, not votes, but they sort of track sentiment. And sentiment took one look. That was a fateful night, Sunday, March 12th, when they decided to guarantee the Silicon Valley Bank. That was a bailout, and I don't think anybody liked it. And I think Biden's paying the price for it.
He's paying the price. He has been paying for the price among independents since the chaotic and unnecessary irrational pullout from Afghanistan. He never really won independence again. And things like this don't help because who are independents? Well, some of them are lapsed Democrats. They've left the Democratic Party. They're in a holding pattern. They won't yet vote Republican. They want to know. They want to feel convinced that we do it better and differently. And we've got solutions, and we finish our sentences and talk about those solutions. But the independents are also people who hate political parties. They don't like Washington. They don't trust Washington. They don't trust Washington to not bail out as something in California and nationwide called a Silicon Valley Bank. So he's not going to get independence back. It's going to be very hard for him to ever get near 51% of the vote and get enough electoral votes to be president. Joe Biden can do that if you have a third-party candidate who steals votes away, not steal in that sense, takes votes away from the Republican nominee. It's the only way he could do it. It's the way Bill Clinton became president in 1992. That's what I worry about. I worry that the one thing the Democrats and the left sees here is a president whose poll numbers on the economy, the core issue, are so bad, Larry, that he can't get enough electoral votes without that third-party candidate taken away from the Republican. Last point. Look at all the non-political poll numbers. Most American households say they're living paycheck to paycheck. They can't afford a surprise $1,000 medical bill or a car payment bill, for example, car crash bill. They are not saving for a sunny day, let alone a rainy day. They're worried about whatever investments are there because they can't see what's happening.
They're worried about the stuff
in their
banks.
That's what I mean. They're worried
Right.
about what's in the bank. They thought putting it in the bank would be safe. Maybe
but the solution may be worse than the problem, is what they're saying. You're going to bankrupt us, and our taxes are going to go up.
Well, and the problem solvers aren't being transparent and honest. That's the problem.
There you go.
Joe Biden could have stood up a while ago and said, listen, we're going to feel pain in the economy for a while. Instead, he says, Trump, 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 pretends the economy is doing well. They have the audacity. They have the audacity to say gas prices are down 10 cents, 20 cents, everything's going better. Folks, people aren't trying to buy Mercedes-Benz, they're trying to buy eggs. And that's really what's hurting them. So my business is the people. I go with what public opinion and their sentiment. People are much smarter than the political class thinks they are. And they know that they're always on the losing end of the equation when it comes to these bailouts, when it comes to Washington injecting more money into the economy. Washington, do your job. Get inflation down. Most Americans fear that we're going toward a recession. They don't care if a bunch of pointy-head economists respectfully tell them, no, there's no recession. They're doing their own numbers back of the envelope.
Excluded.
Always. You're the goat. They're doing their own back of the number assessment, Larry, and they're saying,
right.
my household budget's in a recession already. They're feeling the pinch of inflation.
Right. And you may be taking my deposits away, but if you give me my deposits, you may be taxing me to death to cover it.
They see it.
Let's go ahead. Couple of political things. The Alvin Bragg case looks like it's falling apart. The jury's not even meeting for the rest of this week. No perp walk, no handcuffs. The whole thing looks like a big nothing burger. Winners and losers, Kellyanne Conway.
Well, I think Alvin Bragg doesn't have much to brag about right now. I think he's Alvin Blink because he did, not Alvin Bragg. And I don't mean to laugh because, indicting a former president is serious business. And now they're all mad at President Trump for telling everybody he was going to be arrested and indicted. Excuse me, that's what they were leaking. Whoever the they is was leaking to the press for a long time. How do I know that? Oh, because I testified to the grand jury, that same grand jury. And when the person who was asking me the questions at some point asked me something, I said, well, I just assumed it would leak, and it did. I've been reading about it in the New York Times when I leave here, even though I'm going through the side door. I thought the questions from the actual grand jurors were very intelligent. Some of them were paying great attention. But it was very clear to me that there was skepticism about building a case on the word of Michael Cohen.
Yes.
He's a convicted felon. He also lied to a federally insured bank to get money from them, which carries a maximum penalty, Larry, of 30 years, in addition to a criminal tax evasion of $4 million, and lying to Congress, the whole thing. You can't build a case on it. I think that's why they had people like Hope Hicks and me go in there, just to lay out the facts. I answer the questions honestly and completely, and I think that has put a couple speed bumps here, because there is no campaign finance violation. In 2016, when I was Donald Trump's campaign manager, I was focused on one woman. And it wasn't a porn person, it was Hillary Clinton.
Right.
That's the person I was focused on. He won fairly and squarely. They never saw it coming. They've always wanted to stop him. Russia collusion, porn people, this, that, and the other.
This Alvin Bragg thing was the Russian hoax to the 100th power without any evidence. I mean, he didn't have good liars. And the other one, Costello, the lawyer, punched him out anyway. I mean, I just think it's remarkable. Does this diminish any of the other things that might be down there? I'm going to assume the grand jury doesn't meet him. That may be incorrect.
I don't know what's going to happen.
We don't know what's going to go on.
Right, we don't know what's going to happen.
But be that as it may,
they've overpromised.
That's right. It's damaged the far left side and the hatred of Trump. Now, potentially, there are issues with the January 6th business and the classified documents business. My question to you, with respect to Mr. Trump and his re-election campaign, does the breakdown of Alvin Bragg diminish these other possible problems?
I think the get Trump at all costs crowd has to re-examine themselves. Trump derangement syndrome is real. There is no vaccine, no booster. There will always be a very loud a group of people in this country who want to stop at all costs. But you know what? The people are going to decide who their next Republican presidential nominee and president are. I think many of them are paying attention to some of these other cases, but some of them are very almost numb to the whole get Trump syndrome. Look, the media, the minute we got there, instead of trying to get the story, it was get the president at all costs. I mean, that's pretty obvious. And Larry, I got to say something about the DA, though. You know, getting that close and possibly even going forward with indicting a former president is so different than the long, drawn-out Mueller investigation, Russia collusion nonsense, members of Congress, some in leadership positions now, lying that they had collusion evidence, all this stuff, putting people through hell, putting Trump and the Trump family through hell, the rest of us. That's, to me, is still fundamentally different than this threat of arresting, handcuffing, putting in the DNA database in New York a former president. That's like next level stuff. And I want to say one thing. Letitia James and Alvin Bragg, when they ran for elective office, they both promised to get Trump.
Get Trump.
They should have just said one thing. I have a duty to uphold the Constitution and to faithfully execute the laws of New York, period. You don't talk about your political opponents.
And real quick, which is more important to, I hate to use this term, but typical families, average people, average voters, the Circus Maximus in New York with Alvin Bragg, or their deposits at the bank, or their future hiking tax bill?
Ding, ding, ding. This one's easy, and as pollsters would say, strongly so. It's their deposits. It's their financial wherewithal. It's Americans feeling, Larry.
And who's going to pay for it?
They're living an honest life. They're putting a little bit of money away. They think it's safe there. They're going to say it's safe under my pillow soon and nowhere else, because at least they can see it.
Do you have any money in Silicon Valley Bank?
I did not.
I just need to.
Just in full disclosure, I did not.
I just couldn't help her. I've known her for 30 years. Kellyanne Conway, the absolute best. What's the name of the book? What's the name of the book?
Here's the deal. And it talks about winning, not whining. Go pick it up. The whole afterword is how we won in 2016 and can again.
Coming up on Kudlow, winning, not whining.